So good morning or good evening if you're in Moscow. This is Todd Trichler, and I have my guest here, Sayan Malakshinov, who is both an Oracle Ace associate and recently won in the SQL category for the Oracle Database Developer Choice Awards. So first of all, congratulations, Sayan.
Thanks. Hi, Todd. Thanks.
So very well deserved. You and Emra were two of the really top winners in terms of vote getters, and it was interesting to see just how the whole Russian community, got up around you guys and supported you, just like the Turkish community did for Emra. So, Sayan, this isn't your first award. I was reading through your profile, and I saw that you'd also got an award from one of your companies that you worked at, a bank, and for saving them over $1 million through your performance tuning work, for Oracle Database performance tuning work. Would you like to talk a little bit about that? That sounds like an interesting project. Was it? How did you save that money?
This just was a project where we analyzed all of our databases, and so we have to analyze and tune all databases. So that was a big cost-saving project.
Okay. So literally it was, was it the savings in hardware, or was it just through making it run more efficiently so that the SQL ran faster and people got done in more time? You could process more.
All of this, because we saved on hardware, on licenses, and of course, because we tuned a big number of queries and PL SQL and so on.
Excellent. Great. So, I'm always interested in how people start. I mean, I was reading your blogs and that you do a lot of performance tuning. You're very interested in the cost-based optimizer. And so I can only imagine for somebody that does like performance tuning work with the database and that, there's been a lot of changes over the years. And specifically, I would think that with the introduction of the container database in 12c, and stuff like that, that the jump would also be quite large in that area. For you, what are some of the features that you've thought of in terms of the cost-based optimizer or performance tuning that you've noticed in terms of changes from 1 to 12c? Is there any really good 12c features that you like, that you're like, oh, I'd really like to use that one, or that could really solve some problems?
Okay. Cost-based optimizer is constantly changing. So every new release has very good new features, new optimizations, new mechanisms. So that's all great. What I like really is that we can use laterals now. So it simplifies queries and plans. Before that, Oracle does it internally, but now we can use it in our queries just with lateral clause, and it's very simple. It's very simple, very easy.
And so that was with the SQL query plans, the operations, and hints. So, you're saying that's easier? I mean, I thought we've always had the SQL plans. What's actually different with the with 12c? I mean, how is that much different?
Oh, I can't tell all of these changes.
Maybe what's your top favorite one in terms of the biggest impact for you personally?
New parallel steps optimizations. We can read it on many blogs. Randolph Geist wrote several articles about that. That's really great features.
So the new parallel features of it are that's some of the biggest bang for the buck in terms from your perspective.
Yes.
Excellent. So when you're doing your performance tuning work, are there any particular tools that you like to use? What's some of your favorite tools that you use when you're doing performance tuning work with the Oracle database?
Of course, SQL Plus, SQL Plus and Oracle SQL Developer.
Okay, excellent.
I'm trying to move to SQL CL now, but I have a lot of old queries, old scripts, so I don't know when I'll finish.
And then SQL CL is the new command line interface for Oracle SQL Developer. That's very cool. Are you liking that a lot? Do you prefer to work command line or are you more GUI?
Of course, command line. It's faster.
Okay. You're a purist. That's excellent. So with the SQL CL, what are some of your favorite features in that?
Oh, many things. For example, a repeat command. That's a great feature. Previously, I did several scripts for that.
But you're coding it yourself.
Yes, now it's just one command.
Nice. So repeat comment in SQL CL. And then you use SQL Plus and SQL Developer. One of the things that I'm always interested in, you're obviously a young guy. What would you say to a young Russian developer starting out if he wanted to get into technology and Oracle in particular? Where would you encourage him to start out?
I think it's very important to have deep fundamental knowledge. So they have to be flexible and agile because technology is constantly changing. So they always have to learn something new.
So the biggest advantage is you got to have that mindset. Well, I really enjoy learning new stuff and being flexible and being willing to delve down and actually understand what's underneath the covers. I guess that's even more important from a database perspective because a lot of times you can't really get the best out of the database if you just treat it as a black box as opposed to really knowing what's going on underneath. And that's where, of course, your performance tuning comes in. Is that always been a passion for you, the performance tuning side of it, or did you just naturally gravitate, go towards that area?
I think database and performance tuning is also fundamental knowledge. You have to know algorithms, so all this area is very linked between every technology areas. Every developer have to know algorithms, and these algorithms used in optimizers and so on.
Excellent. Have you noticed with the optimizers, are there any favorite techniques in terms of when you're trying to optimize? Walk me through, like when you're optimizing, say, SQL for a bank or something like that. What typically do you do? What process do you follow?
First of all, data analyzing. And of course, then we have to know how the main thing is architecture. So the best performance profit is from architecture solutions and architecture optimizing. And then we have to know how our query will work. And after that, we have to analyze different transformations, variants of plans, and so on.
Okay.
And after that, we can choose the best plan, the best solution.
Mm-hmm. So you start out with the architecture, the actual data model, and actually checking and making sure that it's going to be performant. Then you go into the actual SQL itself and delve down into that. And then you're actually looking at the plans and saying, okay, well, here's what we expected, but what actually happened, and then pick based upon the actual test and the results on that. Does that sound about right?
Of course, architectural problems and mistakes is the biggest problems.
Why? Is that because it's more expensive to fix?
Yes, of course, because it's only it's hard to fix. It's a very long period to fix many code.
Uh-huh. So the more programs accessing it, the more of a problem it is, the more longer it goes unchecked, unfixed, the more difficult it is. So I guess that's the same case. I saw somewhere that they've done studies where if you catch a bug in, while you're doing in development, then it's easier to fix. If you catch it while you're doing, Q&A, then, it's more expensive, but not as easy as development. If you catch it in test versus production, I guess it's even more impounded if it's the database and the architecture is wrong, because you've got several programs that are relying on it that are, also impacted further downstream. So I can absolutely see that. Sayan, I mean, you're obviously, one of our technologists, Oracle technologists in the Russian community. Do you find that how is it working with, because I mean, I look at Oracle Technology Network, and for the most part, most of the doc, most of the technology, it's all in English, and I notice you blog in English, and that's that's great because I can read it then and I can learn from you and stuff like that. But do you find that there's enough content for, say, the Russian technology community for people that maybe aren't as comfortable in English, or do you find that it's close enough to the technology that isn't too much of a problem? Most of them can work their way through it.
Okay, I think almost all our developers, all Russian developers, know English because it's all IT is on English.
Okay. Okay.
So there is no problem with it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. No, I always wonder that because sometimes it's easier. I mean, I'm thinking if I'm learning a new language, initially I think when you're starting out, maybe it's easier to hear it in your own language, like starter 101 content, just the very getting started content. But I'm sure the more experienced developers, they have to, just because all the doc is that way typically. And most of the blogs and most of the experts that are in that community are, even the guys in Germany are blogging in English because there's a wider base, basically, things like that. Or sometimes they'll run dual blogs, but okay, that makes sense.
We need more feedback, so it's better to write in English.
Gotcha. So part of the reason why you actually blog then is because there's a wider audience for when you do it in English. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, Sayan, thank you so much, and congratulations on winning again in the SQL category for the Devvies. And I super appreciate all your contributions back to the community. So keep up the good work there in Moscow, and I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot to Oracle, of course.
Thanks.